Hi, my name is Nick. I'm a 26-year-old man, and I just watched the 2014 movie Divergent for the first time. Divergent's actually based on the book Divergent that came out 3 years earlier. It is a young adult dystopian novel written by author Veronica Roth. And if you're familiar with the channel, you know that I just put out a video about a month ago where I talked about reading the Divergent book for the first time. And the video is 3 hours long. So I do not expect you to watch that whole video, even though it's awesome. But I'm going to try to make this video a lot shorter and hopefully give you the context you need to watch it anyways. I'm planning on reading each book of the series and then watching the subsequent movie after it. And so soon after this video comes out, I will put out my video reviewing the second book in the Divergent series called Insurgent, which I am reading right now. And it is a hoot. Now in this video, I'm not going to hit every single plot point and go through the movie like I did with the book, but I am going to talk through the general plot, and I am going to be comparing it a lot to the book. But don't worry, it should still be fun if you have no idea what's going on. It's no surprise how I felt about the book Divergent. Even though it was very entertaining, I just, made fun of a lot of the young adult tropes in it. And I think the movie brings the same tone and just kind of gives you like a very, very watered down version of the book. Despite the fact that this movie is 2 hours and 19 minutes long, they just skip over so much stuff that happens in the book that the story just has a completely different weight to it. And I'll, spoiler, I think the book is a better time than the movie. And I will explain that. But first, look at my new glasses, guys. I mean, this is a whole new look for me. My last pair of glasses I've been wearing for years. So if I feel like a fresh new Nick to you, then that's the reason why. And I'm happy to say this is also true and possible because of the sponsors of today's video, Warby Parker. We'll talk more about that later. With all that said, I say let's just jump into the movie. I literally just watched it and wrote a bunch of notes, and so I'm just going to go through it and yap to you guys. Now, before we even get to the plot of the movie, I gotta point out that this is a Neil Burger film, which was a surprise to me. Not that Neil Burger directed it, because I don't know who Neil Burger is, but the fact that his name is Neil Burger and they let him direct the movie. Now, Neil Burger was the director of Limitless, the Bradley Cooper movie where he takes that pill that unlocks the rest of his mind and he turns into a super genius. Another thing I found interesting in the opening credits is that Hans Zimmer is an executive score producer in this movie. He is not the actual composer. The composer of the movie is this guy named Junkie XL. I don't know how they got Hans Zimmer to be associated with this movie. Obviously, he's a legendary composer who did the Dark Knight trilogy, he did Inception, he did the Dune movies. Anyways, if you don't know a lot about Divergent and what the concept is, they kind of just immediately spoon feed it to you with like a main character monologue, but I'll give you the gist. Divergent takes place in a dystopian Chicago. The world has torn itself apart, and now we live in a world where there are 5 factions that all are represented by traits. You grow up in whatever faction your family is in, and then when you turn 16, you take a test and you have to decide if you're going to stay with your faction or go to a new one. I've already explained this in my Divergent video. I'm going to have to explain it again in my Insurgent video. Bear with me. But in this opening scene, our main character, Beatrice, is explaining the system. She says that they divide everyone up into factions to keep the peace. And I'll say the literal quote from the movie: "The smart ones, the ones who value knowledge and logic, are an erudite." Really great writing here. She says they know everything. Amity farm the land. They're all about kindness and harmony, and they're all happy. I always tell everyone that Amity is my favorite, even though I took a little test and it said that I was Candor. Candor value honesty and order. They tell you the truth even when you wish they wouldn't. And then you have the Dauntless, which is the badass faction, which I love how they portray the Dauntless in this movie because they look like, how do I explain this? They look like a bunch of actors dressed up to be like badass adrenaline junkies. The thing is, they don't look like rugged or anything. It looks like the clothing department just gave them new clothes. Just shots of generic badasses running and giggling to each other. A weird thing they do in the movie that they did not do in the book is they kind of insinuate that Triss has always been interested in the Dauntless. They have this shot of what I can only presume to be Triss as a young girl because her mom calls her by name a few seconds later in the scene. But they have her running after the Dauntless as a little kid. She says, "Dauntless are our protectors, our soldiers, our police. I always thought they were amazing. Brave, fearless, and free. Just climbing buildings and stuff." It's somehow cheesier in the movie than it is in the book, where I remember reading and I was like, these guys like climb buildings and jump from trains and stuff for fun. Yep, they sound like a bunch of losers. Well, they look like losers in the movie. That brings me to the last faction. It's the one that Beatrice is a part of. It's called Abnegation. We lead a simple life, selfless, dedicated to helping others. We even feed the factionless. Now, the factionless is like the sixth faction basically, and it's anyone who doesn't make it through initiation or who gets kicked out of their faction. It's just homeless people, and they really make them out to look like they're all like druggies and they're dirty and gross. Like in the book, Beatrice really harps on the factionless just being like disgusting and scary and how she'd rather die than being a part of the factionless. Abnegation also run the government, which becomes a very big plot point. For some reason, everyone agreed that they should run the government. And what does Beatrice think about all of this? Well, she quotes it right here. She said, "It all works. Everybody knows where they belong. Except for me." So we've got a black sheep, ugly duckling, if you will, situation. The movie takes us to present day, where Beatrice is now 16 years old, and her brother Caleb are about to take the aptitude test, which is the test that every citizen takes when they turn 16 that will tell you what faction you belong in. Abnegation has a lot of weird rules and formalities. One of them being that you can't you can't really use mirrors. It's like bad. And they say this in the book, but in the movie, they show Triss's mom like pressing these buttons on the mirror, and she opens up the mirror for a few seconds to let Triss look at herself, I guess. She asks Beatrice a couple questions, and then she's like, well, that's all the time you get. And she shuts the mirror, and she's not allowed to look at herself anymore. They explain in the book, but I don't really remember why they're not allowed to use mirrors. I think they're all about selflessness, and so they don't want to be selfish, and I guess caring about how you look is a selfish thing. But like, what if you got a booger in your nose and you don't want anyone to see it? Like, what if you've got shit on your face? Like, what if you got something stuck in your teeth and you can't get it out? Now, Beatrice, or Triss, as she ends up changing her name to later in the movie, is played by Shailene Woodley. She kind of blew up as an actress around this time after being on television for a while. She was in that old show called The O.C., but then she got cast in 2014 in Divergent as the main character, The Fault in Our Stars as the main character, and then apparently in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, she plays Mary Jane Watson. I was like, I don't remember Mary Jane Watson being in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because that's the movie where Emma Stone plays Gwen and then ends up dying. But apparently these were deleted scenes, and she did not end up in the movie. Now, in the movie, Beatrice's brother Caleb is played by Ansel Elgort, who in the same year played her love interest in The Fault in Our Stars. This is something that people bring up a lot, and it's pretty funny because they go from playing lovers to just like honestly having like really no chemistry in Divergent. Obviously no chemistry in a romantic way because they're supposed to be siblings, but you know, as actors. But I do not blame them because the Abnegation are so boring and uptight that they kind of had to start by playing those characters. But this movie has a lot of actors in it that ended up becoming massive after the movie. I will get to all of the casting in a second. I thought Ansel Elgort did an okay job. I mean, Caleb is not really in this movie all that much. I kind of want to talk about the ages of all these actors too, because this was kind of during the age of like casting actors that were still way too old to be playing their character. Shailene Woodley was like 22 or 23 while playing a 16-year-old girl, but she can kind of play characters that are younger than she actually is because she kind of looks the part. Ansel Elgort was about 20 and he was also playing a 16-year-old, but he does look older. I don't know if this is mean either, but like Ansel Elgort's got such an interesting face where I feel like sometimes he can be handsome, but a lot of times he just looks like bizarre to me. They do have a bunch of people that are known to be attractive people in Hollywood who are in this movie, and besides maybe the love interest in this movie, who I will get to, I don't know if they could get any of the characters to come off as attractive or like dreamy or whatever, which that's not the point of the movie, but it is a young adult whatever, so it is kind of the point of the movie. Especially if you read the book, you'd know how much gooning there is in the book, okay? Everyone's waiting to go take their aptitude test, and a train comes by, and the Dauntless show up. And the way that they always show up is by jumping off of a moving train, as we know. And I can't help but say again that the Dauntless look so corny and lame in this movie. They do not come off as badasses, and maybe that's because they're all like young, and I like it just does not sell the idea of them being these like badass risk takers. They also changed the design of the train in the movie, obviously, because this is way in the future. And for some reason, the trains look like this. It's like this blocky, like worn down industrial vibe, which I don't really know how they would ever go from the current Chicago metro train designs to this. I don't know if I mentioned that I live in Chicago and this movie takes place in Chicago, and so there's not a lot of movies this popular that were shot in Chicago. It's this, and then it's The Dark Knight were shot in the city. I wouldn't say that this movie is much of a love letter to Chicago. It's not super necessary to the story, but obviously I will bring up when we have some classic Chicago scenes. Now Beatrice goes to take the aptitude test, and she meets the woman running her test, whose name is Tori, and I was excited and surprised to see that Tori is played by a sexy Asian lady. That is a huge win that actress Maggie Q plays Tori, who in the book I did not get any indication that she was Asian. I went back to make sure. It says that Tori is not as severe looking as the young Dauntless I've seen. She has small, dark, angular eyes. Well, maybe. But they never say what Tori's full name is. And then when you see in the credits and everywhere online, they say that her full name is Tori Wu, which I searched in Divergent and in Insurgent if they ever use her full name. But no, they never say anything about her being Asian or anything. So this was really great for me to see. We need more sexy Asian women playing roles that people assume are white, okay? So Beatrice goes to take this aptitude test, and it's basically some serum that they put inside of you, and you go into this like virtual reality world where you have to make different decisions that will then tell you where you belong. Now in the book, this is like a whole chapter of her being in this test and deciding all these different things. But in the movie, it's literally like a minute or two long before she is out of the simulation. In the simulation, she is in this like mirror dimension room. And the first choice that they make in the book is having to choose between a knife and a block of cheese. But in the movie, she actually chooses between a knife and a big chunk of meat for some reason. And she takes too long to choose, so then she has to fight off the dog without any items at her disposal. No cheese, no knife. The way she does this is the same as it is in the book. She gets down on both her knees and the dog is like just chill to her, I guess, because she doesn't freak it out. I've got a freeze frame of her smiling at the dog, and it is like a freakish freeze frame. I don't know why she looks like that. Anyways, then she turns and sees a little girl who is calling out to the dog. The dog goes to attack the girl, and because she has nothing to attack it or lure it with, she just runs after the dog and tackles it to the ground. And that's literally the whole test. She doesn't choose the knife or the cheese. She sits down next to the dog, and then she tackles the dog, and then she wakes up. So this is where Tori sees that Beatrice's test was inconclusive, and she kind of starts freaking out. In the book, she leaves the room for a little bit and then comes back to tell Tris what happened. But in the movie, she's immediately like, you need to go right now. She immediately tells Beatrice that she needs to go home and tell her family that the serum made her sick and that she got sent home. So not only are they saying that she belongs to the boring faction, but she also belongs to the smart faction and the badass faction. She says that it's this extremely rare thing that happens, and Beatrice is divergent and she cannot tell anybody. Even though the test is just a suggestion as to what faction you should go to, being divergent is something that puts a target on your back for a reason that we do not know yet. Now, one thing I have to say, and this is not me being a hater towards Shailene Woodley in any way, but as an abnegation, they are known for being very low maintenance. They don't care a lot about how they look. They're supposed to just be plain and there to serve their community. Whoever was in the makeup department for this movie just put way too much makeup on Shailene Woodley's face. It's not giving abnegation at all, to be honest. She's like walking among the factionless and has like eyeliner and like a full face of makeup, which is fine, but you guys can't even use a mirror. How did you get all that crap on? So then we have a scene of the night before the choosing ceremony where Caleb and Beatrice have dinner with their parents. Her dad is actually a politician who works for the government and represents abnegation. And for some reason at dinner, they have like one light bulb that like hangs from the ceiling. They act like they're living in a freaking cave. I don't remember the fact that abnegation has to live in like bomb shelters. The vibe is horrible in this place. I would want to get out so bad. The other thing I noticed is that in the book, abnegation, especially the children, are not supposed to ask any questions or be curious at all. It's like a bad thing to be too curious. But at dinner, Beatrice and Caleb just like keep asking their parents questions, and there's no sign that their parents don't want them to be too curious. That was like a very big point in the book, is that at dinner, Beatrice's mom like keeps shutting her down and telling her to stop asking her dad questions. But they do show some cracks in the armor of Tris not really belonging in abnegation. One of the ways they show this is at dinner, Tris checks her reflection in a spoon while her parents are talking to her. So that's how we know that she's not meant to be here. Maybe try wooden spoons next time if you don't want your kids to be looking at their reflection, okay? Now, one of the differences I found in the film compared to the book that was actually a positive change is that the parents talk about the choosing ceremony with a little more weight than they do in the book. In the book, I talked about how their parents kind of just assume that the kids are going to continue living in abnegation, and they don't really act like their kids are about to make the most important choice of their lives the next day. And I know this is kind of expected for a young adult film, but I think it's great that both of their parents are also sexy. I feel like I've seen the dad play a bunch of dads on different shows. He plays the president in the show Scandal. Oh, and I didn't know that he was the voice of Tarzan in the original Tarzan movie. So now we're at the choosing ceremony. The next day, you see all of the factions sitting in their own sections, and you can see how segregated they are from one another, and they all wear different clothing. On the far left, you can see Abnegation all wearing gray. Next to them, you see Amity all wearing kind of like oranges and yellows. Then you have Erudite, who wears blue. Why do they wear blue? Let me see if I can find it in the original book. According to the Divergent fan wiki, Erudite's main color is blue, as it is a calming color that helps stimulate the brain. Also, most faction members wear thick glasses to make them seem smarter. What the hell? You're telling me this the day that I got my new glasses that are thicker to make me look smarter? I mentioned how sometimes they use real songs instead of having a score in this movie, and the real songs feel very out of place. As Beatrice's family is going to the choosing ceremony, they start playing this Ellie Goulding song that is like, feels way out of place for the tone of the movie. I'll try, hopefully it doesn't get copyrighted. I'm gonna play like a 2-second clip. It's not really giving dystopia, but that's fine. At the choosing ceremony, Beatrice and her family run into a woman named Janine Matthews, who is the representative for Erudite, and spoiler alert, ends up being the antagonist of the movie. In the book, they just mention Janine at dinner when they're all sitting around the table talking about the fact that Janine has been putting out reports against abnegation, but in the movie, they really barely mention her, and then they actually just talk to her in person at the choosing ceremony, and there really isn't much of an explanation as to who Janine is in the movie. It's not really built up in the background the same way it was in the book, mostly because they take out so many plot points in the movie to make the book fit in this already long runtime. But they do talk about in the movie how there are these reports that are coming out about abnegation, but they don't know exactly who wrote it. But when we have this interaction before the choosing ceremony with Janine, it is insinuated that she is the one doing it, and that her parents know, they just don't really have proof, or there's nothing they can really do about it. So they start the choosing ceremony, and after they call up the first couple people, I realize that they're doing it in reverse capitalization order from your last name, which is kind of a bizarre choice they decided to make in the movie. Jonathan Ziegler goes first, and then after that, it's Jeffrey Yates. Now, I said earlier that it seemed like her parents cared more about the choosing ceremony in the movie, but when they're actually doing the choosing ceremony and someone decides to abandon their old faction and go somewhere else, it almost seems like nobody really cares. Everyone kind of claps, and yes, the kids' parents are like crying off to the side. They do seem very upset, but I don't know, the kids never really seem to care. They just kind of like walk off and then start like high-fiving the people from their new faction. Caleb is the first one between the two of them to go up and choose his faction, and instead of staying in abnegation, he surprises everybody by choosing to go to Erudite. And yeah, her parents look upset, but it's kind of just like an empty shocked look. Same with Beatrice, like in the book and the movie, she doesn't know she's gonna pick Dauntless until the very last second. So she should still be so shocked that she is never really going to see her brother again. And her parents really aren't ever gonna get to see their son again. And it's also gotta be so embarrassing as parents to watch your children, especially as a political leader, leave your family to go to a new faction. You know, I mentioned in my book video how I am a relatively new reader. I read when I was a young kid, and then I stopped reading up until about last year in October, where I started to pick up reading again. And so not only is reading books new to me as an adult, but also watching movies that were adapted from books that I've read. And I have read a lot of books now that already have a movie adaptation, but I never got around to them. So it might be dumb to say to people who read books, or maybe just anybody, but to not be able to have the inner thoughts of Beatrice on the page, certain moments just hit so much less. And that's going to happen in general for any book that gets adapted into a movie, but there are a lot of classic examples of that in this movie. So Triss decides last second that she is going to go with Dauntless, the badass faction. Her parents give another like empty stare. I don't know. If it was me and both of my kids ditched me in front of everybody else, I'd be like, yeah, I freak out. Anyways, she chooses Dauntless, and even though all of these guys are probably going to be assholes to her over the next few weeks, they give her a warm welcome, and immediately after the choosing ceremony, they start to sprint towards a running train. They don't explain this to any of the new initiatives. They're just expected to sprint along with them onto this train. I don't think Triss even speaks a single word with another Dauntless. Anyways, we meet a new character on the train, which is Triss's like best girlfriend in the book, whose name is Christina. In the book, I think Triss is a lot smaller than Christina, and Christina is a lot better at fighting and most other things. In this movie, they cast her as Zoe Kravitz, who is one of the sexiest actors working in Hollywood today. They make her look so bad in this movie. She looks like a little dork, like the whole movie. She's just got this like dorky little like vibe to her. And they also give her all of the cringe lines in this movie. I don't know why they do her so bad. She has all of the like millennial like oop and I oop like type lines. But Christina comes from Candor. They're the ones that tell the truth all the time, and she is also a new initiate for Dauntless. One of the lines that she has that cracks me up is her saying, "Is it just me, or are they trying to kill us?" I mean, that immediately told me where they were going to be going with the dialogue in this movie. It really only gets worse from here, and we are only in the first 20 minutes. We also see the Miles Teller in this movie, and I had no idea who he played at first. I thought he was Eric, who we will meet in a few scenes. But no, he plays Peter, who is Triss's bully in the book, who ends up doing a lot of horrible shit to her. I'll talk about it later. This is a weird casting choice for me, especially because we have like 3 young adult heartthrobs in this movie when it comes to Ansel Elgort. I guess you could call Miles Teller that, and then we'll get to the third one. We also see a line thrown towards the character Al, who is a pretty prominent character in the first book, but is basically like not in this movie at all, besides his like big scene that happens in the middle. Al is supposed to be this like big teddy bear character who really struggles through initiation and has a crush on Triss and has a lot of demons in his head. But in this movie, he's literally in the background like the whole time. So there is no weight to his character at all. Or should I say at Al? Anyways, without explaining to these initiates once again, they all start jumping off of the train onto a roof. And again, if you don't make it onto the roof, if you decide not to jump, or if you fall off, you're out. And then you're factionless once again, which apparently is the worst thing ever, if you read the book. Now we can be one of those guys that goes, if you read the book. Tell me if you didn't watch my book video and you're watching this video, please tell me if any of this makes any sense. I can't really tell if I'm doing a good job of explaining it to anybody who doesn't already know what happens. And Miles Teller was like 27 or 28 when this movie came out, and he was playing a 16-year-old. Peter is supposed to be like a big, scary character, but I don't think Miles Teller's like the best option for that kind of role. I think they just casted him because those were the actors they were casting for this movie. Then we meet Eric, who is another one of the film's antagonists, and he is one of the leaders of Dauntless, and he's only 17 years old. I think it was 2 years earlier that he did initiation, and he is not only the youngest leader among the Dauntless, but the youngest leader of any faction. And he might be my favorite, or maybe do I mean least favorite, character adaptation to film, because Eric in the book is like gross, and he has greasy long hair. He's got piercings all over his face. He is like a little freak. And in this movie, they have, I guess, Jai Courtney, who I don't even really recognize, playing Eric. If I'm showing you guys what he looks like right now, Eric is supposed to be 17 years old. Who the fuck is this guy? He was 27 or 28 years old when this movie came out, and he's supposed to be playing a 17-year-old, and he looks like he might be 40. Hey everyone, let's take a quick second to talk about the sponsor for today's video, Warby Parker. If you guys haven't noticed already, Nikki's got some new frames. It has been years since I have tried out a new look, and Warby Parker gave me the perfect opportunity to switch it up big time. I got to try on a bunch of frames in person at their location in Chicago with one of their super friendly advisors, Cole. Thank you, Cole. But if you're also not a fan of leaving the house, Warby Parker has got a great website with their virtual try-on feature where you can try on frames at home virtually. It's super easy to check out and the delivery is nice and quick. I actually walked away with Warby's Elio frames in black walnut. And I don't know why I didn't get new glasses sooner. I mean, this is like a whole new Nick, guys. Come on, admit it. Admit it already. And Warby Parker makes all of their frames in-house with premium materials that are sturdy and high quality. And they just have so many styles that you can find whatever suits you, no matter who you are. And their glasses start at just $95 with prescription lenses that includes anti-reflective and scratch-resistant coatings. And even better, you get free shipping and 30-day returns. You can even use your vision insurance or your FSA and HSA accounts. And every pair you buy will actually go to giving vision care to someone in need with Warby Parker's Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program. So if looking at these sweet frames didn't already convince you to go check it out, click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out Warby Parker and maybe get some frames for yourself. Thank you so much to Warby Parker for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. After they jump onto the roof, they have to jump back off of the roof in order to land inside of Dauntless's headquarters. They jump into a big dark abyss that has a net at the bottom. Triss is trying to prove herself. She says she's going to jump off first into the net, and when she gets to the bottom, someone helps her out of the net, and we are introduced to our love interest, and his name is Four, and he is played by actor Theo James, who was 30 years old when this movie was shot. He is playing an 18-year-old boy who falls in love with a 16-year-old girl, and he is 30 years old. What I will say about him is he is sexy as hell, and they at least do the right thing with Four's character, or at least what their definition of the right thing is. He is sexy in this movie. He might be my favorite actor slash character in the movie because he just comes off way less cringe than the rest of them. Of course, he still has his cringe moments, but it's nothing like the book. Now, I still don't think that Four's character is like likable at all. I don't know why Triss likes him besides the fact that he's sexy, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But like, holy shit, this is like a full ass adult man. Like, this is where Beatrice decides to change her name to Triss. Very cool name change. Very badass. Anyways, Four leads all of the initiates into the main headquarters of the Dauntless, which is called the Pit. Finna be in the pit, I guess. That sucks. I hate that I said that. But yeah, we're introduced to the pit, and yeah, they all live in like a big pit underground. So if that doesn't make them into like the lamest fucking faction, then I do not know what does. Four also shows where their sleeping quarters are, and I think it's Al who asks, is this girls or boys? And Four says both. So I'm glad Dauntless is at least the wokest faction. Having gender-free living spaces is super progressive, and especially having your open-aired bathrooms also be gender-free and open for anyone to see. I guess everyone's supposed to pull down their pants and just shit in front of each other all of initiation. There is no scene where we actually watch any of them using these toilets. Like, I'm not sold on that idea, to be honest with you. They're all eating in the dining hall, and they start talking about their old factions, and Four cuts them off, and he's like, we shouldn't talk about our old factions. Why are you guys talking about it? He's just so grumpy. I'm like, what is, like, who stepped in your freaking Dauntless soup, bro? Who ate your Dauntless burger? Triss tries asking him a question, but it is about his former faction, which he just told them not to talk about. So I don't know why she did that. But his response was, what makes you think you can talk to me? I'm like, dude, you are an asshole. What makes you think you can talk to me? You're the one that's supposed to help them through initiation. Like, the hell? But they do take a line from the book here, where Triss says, It must be because you're so approachable. And he just responds to her and says, careful, as if he's gonna like fucking kill her or something. Are you gonna beat her up? Like, what are you gonna do, dude? And then we get another classic line from Christina, classic cringe line. She says, you, my friend, have a death wish. So then we get to the first day of training where they are basically told that they're going to go through 3 stages of initiation. And if you aren't able to make it through any of the stages, you are cut from initiation and therefore you are factionless and have to leave the headquarters. For some reason, Christina responds to this by saying cut, as if she's surprised that Dauntless cut initiates during initiation, which is weird for a few reasons, because it insinuates that they don't think that any factions cut their initiates, when we are told in the book, and I'm pretty sure in the movie, that every faction besides Abnegation will cut initiates during initiation. That's why it's called initiation, is you've got to be initiated into the faction. But in the book, Christina even talks about what initiation is for the Kandor faction. And the fact that you can get cut is not a Dauntless specific thing. So I feel like it's safe to assume that Dauntless will be the most ruthless when it comes to cutting initiates, because you are training to be a Dauntless and a protector of the world. They also portray the factionless in such a lame way that lacks identity at all and makes them just seem like a bunch of dirty, scary people to be around. Like the fact that Peter is like egging her on and he's like, you're going to be a part of them soon. You should go say hi to them. So they really don't have technology in the books or in the movies. No one's ever using a phone. No one's playing goddamn Pocket God. But they sometimes randomly will have futuristic technology. Like in this scene, Eric is holding like a phone looking device that projects like a hologram onto one of the walls to show them their initiate rankings. I don't know why they don't do it on a chalkboard. I think they do it on a chalkboard in the book. The first stage of initiation is the physical stage, and Triss is called up first to have a fist fight against another one of the initiates whose name is Molly. Now, Molly in the book is a part of Peter, who is Miles Teller's character's crew. You know, Peter's like the main bully and he has 2 lackeys, and one of them is Molly and another one is a guy named Drew. In the movie, Molly is not, I don't think she's really attached to Peter at all, and Drew doesn't even exist. I don't even think she's like a bully in the movie. She's just like a girl that can physically outfight Triss. She beats the shit out of Triss, and the makeup that they have for when they get the shit beaten out of them is so bad. They don't show like bruising, or they don't really have black eyes, and it looks like she just got like soot on her face, and not that we just watched her get knocked out without any protection or anything. This girl just raw punches her in the face with her fist, and then we watch her get up and run over to the initiate board about 2 minutes later. Like, I'm trying to get a good shot of it, but that is not what someone's face looks like when they just got punched like 3 times in the head. So then Triss and her friends decide to go get tattoos, and we are led to this weird like futuristic cyberpunk tattoo shop where they all pick these like glass panels off the walls and decide to get tattoos. And Tori, our token and sexy Asian character, is actually one of the tattoo artists, and Triss interacts with her here and asks her a little bit more about Divergent. Who cares? Let's get to the tattoos. And it cracks me up how they do tattoos in this movie, because they like put this little patch that like sticks on to wherever you want to get the tattoo, and then it has like a blue like cable coming out of it, and she just sort of sits there and pretends to be like setting it up for so long just for them to have this conversation for the plot. And then at the end of the conversation, Tori just pulls off the little thing and she has the tattoo, and that's it. In the book, we follow Triss on this long, arduous journey of not being good enough to make initiation, and she slowly gets better at certain things and this and that. Luckily, because we're in a movie, we can just do what movies do, and Triss gets a montage of her training and trying to get better. It probably skips through like a dozen chapters of the book just in this montage. Look at her punch that bag. She's punching the bag really fast. She starts shooting a gun and gets good at shooting guns. Thor comes up to her while she's training, and he's like, you're too small. You need to use your weight more and move faster. He tells her to keep tension here, and then he just like grabs her torso with both his hands. And the gooning begins. Let's just say that. The gooning begins. Then we have a scene that's pretty well known in the book where Christina loses this fight against Molly. And because she tries to give up before Molly's able to knock her out, Eric grabs Christina and brings her out to this chasm which is basically this little rickety bridge over a big hole. He makes Christina hold on to the edge of the bridge and says that she has to hold on until he says so, or else she'll either fall off and die, or if she gives up, then he's going to make her factionless and she has to immediately leave. This is like a long, anxiety-inducing scene in the book, but in the movie, he like doesn't even make her wait that long. He makes her wait like 20 seconds and then says she's allowed to get up. And then Triss and this random other guy help her up. I'm pretty sure it's Triss and Al in the last book. For some reason, they didn't make it Al in the movie. It's just like this white guy who's a background character, I guess. And even though Christina's crying because she almost died, Eric says, "Dauntless don't ever give up." Four tells him on the train that as Dauntless, they fight to protect every life inside the fence without fail. And in the book and the movie, we never see any single example of Dauntless being like protectors or like fighting to save anyone. Mostly they're just assholes and they try to kill each other a lot of the time. We have the classic knife throwing scene in the movie where all of the initiates are practicing throwing knives and Al isn't able to throw the knives well enough. And so Eric tells him that he has to stand up against the wall and let Four throw knives at him. Now, Triss tries to say that it's unfair for Eric to have Al stand in front of the target, so Eric makes her stand in front of the target while Four throws knives at her. And it's really funny because we keep having these shots of Four throwing the knife and then it like hitting right next to Triss's head, but they just have these shots where it's a close-up on Triss's face and then they pan to the right as if the knife like hit the wood next to her head, but they obviously have it planted there. It's movie magic. It just makes me laugh, okay? Anyway, almost halfway into the movie, we get to the paintball scene, which if you guys aren't aware, there is a scene that takes place at Navy Pier where Chicago has a big Ferris wheel and Dauntless have a game of paintball as part of initiation. But the change that they made in the movie is that instead of paintballs, they use neurostim darts that simulate real gunshot pain. So every time they get hit with one of these darts, apparently, it will feel like it actually feels to get hit by a bullet, I guess. Now, the Ferris wheel scene in the book is like a whole chapter, and it caused me to actually go to Navy Pier and get on the Ferris wheel because it was such a classic scene in the book. But in the movie, it lasts like 2 minutes. Triss goes up the Ferris wheel, Four follows her, and then they immediately see where the other team's flag is, and then they get off the Ferris wheel. It's like the lamest shit. Triss and Christina take out Peter and shoot him with their little stim darts, and Christina says, "That was awesome." She just has all of the best lines in this movie. And then when Triss gets the flag at the top, in the book, Christina actually takes the flag because she said that Triss has gotten too many wins and it starts this like little conflict. But I think in the movie, they didn't want to have too much conflict and they didn't want to have like another plot point to worry about. So then Christina's just super supportive and she's just a very nice friend to Triss, and they both hold the flag together and it's happily ever after. In the book, a few days later, Triss gets invited to go with the Dauntless Initiates to zipline off of the Hancock Tower in Chicago, but in the movie, it happens right after the paintball fight. And Triss straps into this thing. It's sort of like the Superman ride where you're like laying on your stomach. And she goes through the zip line, and it is the longest goddamn zip line I've ever seen. And I don't know how they set it up, but she zip lines for like a minute straight. She goes like through a hole in a building. And I keep thinking that it's about to be over, and it just like keeps on going. I'm like, how would you even begin to set up this zip line and have it be safe? And who is in charge of setting up the things that people do for fun in this city? Dauntless have to like lift a bunch of bags for some reason in the next scene, and Christina has another great line where she says, "So we passed the first stage of training and this is our reward." Glamorous. Triss is lifting these bags when she spots something hiding behind some boxes, and it's her mom. Her mom came to give her sensitive information. In the book, her mom comes because they have a thing called Visitation Day, which most parents do not show up to, because why would you show up to the faction that your kid ditched you for? But in the movie, Visitation Day doesn't exist, and her mom just like shows up while they're doing something and while she's around all of her peers. Her mom just basically comes to visit her to confirm with her that she's Divergent, and her mom knows she's Divergent, and her mom is just like, don't tell anyone still, even though you didn't tell anyone before, you just should extra not tell anybody. The way she explains Divergent to Triss is that you don't conform. Your mind works in a million different ways. Triss's mom tells her that stage 2 is when Divergent are most at risk, and this is because Divergent aren't affected by simulations. Also, someone sees Triss like hiding behind the boxes and she almost gets in trouble, but then they cut back and her mom is just gone. Like it's one of those Batman things where he's talking to someone and they look away and then they look back and he's just completely disappeared. But it's certainly a cool trick. At the very least, it's a good trick. Anyways, they go to stage 2 of initiation, which is the mental training, and they have to go into these simulations again and like do scary shit, I guess. I don't know. It's supposed to help them stop being scared of stuff. And Triss's fear that she goes through is that a bunch of crows attack her, but she is Divergent, which means that she can mess with the simulation. And so she just is like, oh, this isn't real. And then she like jumps in a little puddle and she like swims to the bottom. It's all kind of bullshit. I don't care. Also, I literally have not mentioned his name a single time in this video, but Will, who is supposed to be one of Triss's best friends in the book, yeah, he's here too. And he does not have much of a character at all. He ends up being Christina's love interest because they love doing that in these books. Whenever there are any single men or women and they have any interaction with a member of the opposite sex, then that means that they're going to fall in love forever. Yeah, Will is there. I have nothing really to say about him. Nothing willy to say about him. So then she goes and visits the erudite compound in order to talk to her brother. I forget why she talks to her brother in the movie. In the book, it's because when her mom visited her, her mom was like, you should go visit Caleb and ask him to research how the simulation serum works. But in the movie, she just is like, you're Divergent, please be careful. And then she just shows up and talks to Caleb about how she's not going to make it and how she might need to go back to abnegation. Her and Caleb basically get in this conversation where Caleb is like, they're not going to let abnegation break any more rules. Now in the book, Caleb is already a little bit sketched out about some of the stuff going on at Erudite. He is talking about how Janine is like ranting about how abnegation is out of control and he thinks something crazy is about to happen. But in the movie, he's like, Erudite should be in charge, not abnegation, and they can't break any more rules. Again, Ansel Elgort, maybe this is me being an asshole. I just do not like looking at this guy's face, dude. I do not like it. Baby Driver, more like baby drive her away from him because he is a bad, bad man. Then we have kind of a pivotal moment in the book and the movie where Triss gets jumped by 3 guys in the middle of the night and they basically try to kill her because she's doing too well in the rankings. Now this scene hits extra hard in the book because one of the guys who jumps Triss is revealed to be Al, who had a big crush on her. They were friends during initiation. But in the movie, Al is barely a character. He has like a few lines. And so this reveal that he is one of these people trying to hurt Triss does not hit nearly as hard as it does in the book. I think the funniest shot of the whole movie is when the 3 of these guys are trying to carry Triss to the edge. And there's not really enough space for all 3 of them to be grabbing onto Triss. So like the third guy in the back is like trying to grab her, but it's not really, there's no place for this guy. In the book, it is Peter, her bully, who is trying to throw her off the edge. And then Drew, who's not in the movie, or at least isn't named, and Al are the 3 of them. And not to get too serious, but another reason why this scene hits is because Peter actually gropes her in the scene and sexually assaults her. And Al didn't think it would go that far, but obviously he was in a group with them, and it's this whole drama. It's a whole drama. And because Al has these feelings for Triss, and he's confused because he's also jealous and he's ashamed that he's not as good at her in the rankings, it builds up to be this breaking point for him where he does something that he really regrets. And it would be one thing if this was a plot point that doesn't affect the main narrative, but they continue to do what the book does in the movie, where Al jumps off into the chasm and kills and so Al's it is something that is so downplayed in the movie. It's like Triss gets jumped, Al sort of gives her like a half-assed apology, and then he goes and he jumps into the chasm and dies. I will say, like, for this kind of movie, I think Shailene Woodley does a good job with a character that I am not a big fan of when it comes to the text. You know, I'm a Divergent purist, okay? And I don't like Triss, and I don't want to like her in the movie, and I don't really like her in the movie, but I think Shailene Woodley did what she could with the script she was given. It feels like her reaction to Al's death is a little bit authentic, but then you kind of go over to Christina, and she's trying her best. Anyways, Triss is talking to 4 about how shocked and upset she is about Al killing himself, and 4 is just sort of like, well, he wasn't gonna pass the test anyways. It's not like he was gonna make it into initiation anyways. Like, it's just Al, dude. So who gives a shit if he died or not, okay? Because he wasn't gonna make it in initiation. So then we have this simulation called the Fear Landscape, and if you're not familiar with the book, the Fear Landscape is a simulation where it shows you your worst fears, and you've got to go through and like tackle the fears and figure out how to get out of it. Anyways, 4 lets Triss come inside his Fear Landscape. So she gets to see all of his worst fears. One of those fears is fear of confinement, and they get trapped in a little box. He says, you have to find a way to stop it. What would a Dauntless do? And her solution to making the space not grow smaller was to take loose nails on the ground and stick them in the corners. I don't even know what I'm trying to explain. This is just... We finally get out after we go through all of 4's 4 fears, and which is when Triss famously finds out that 4 is called 4 because he's got 4 fears. And we get 4's famous line where he says, 4 then, 4 now. Oh yeah, she also learns his name is Tobias and that he is the son of one of her dad's co-workers and he used to be Abnegation, blah, blah, blah. She asks 4 about his tattoo. She's curious where he got the tattoo from, and he asks if she wants to see it, and he takes off his shirt for a sexy scene. And man, this tattoo is fucking awful. It looks horrible. So instead of like slowly being revealed as to what the Erudite's planning and what they're going to do, instead 4 and Triss are spying on the Erudite, and he just like fully explains what it does, which is, spoiler alert, mind control. The Erudite are trying to mind control the Dauntless to take down the Abnegation. He says you inject it like a serum. It makes you more susceptible to suggestion. But as many as they have, it could create an army. And as they talk about this, they are taken to the final test for initiation in Dauntless. In the book, I hate having to keep saying in the book, but in the book, initiation is like the whole book. The stages take chapters and chapters to get through. The final test is like a big thing. In the movie, the final test is like, they barely even show Triss going through her fears. It's like a few different fears and that's it. Now, Triss has to go do her fear landscape for her final testing. But because the judges or whoever get to actually watch her fear landscape happen, she cannot manipulate the simulations because they would know that she is Divergent. So like when she initially had to fight the crows, she just like swam into like a puddle in the floor and swam away and was fine. In her fear landscape thing here, she has to practically figure out how to get rid of the crows. And the way she does that is by picking up a big branch and like swinging it at them. That's really cool and dauntless of you to swing a branch at a couple of birds. She has like 7 fears in the book, but because they have to get through it really fast, she's got like 3 of them here, which would make her have less fears than 4. So they should call her a 3. Her last fear is her being trapped in this big water tank. And the practical way that she solves it is by taking her jacket off and stuffing her jacket in the hole that the water is coming out of. So that's a really hard riddle you had to solve. I guess she's a genius for getting out of that one so fast. Oh wait, no, I forgot about her last fear, which is 4 trying to have sex with her. In the book, it's like a cute thing where 4 wants to have sex with her and she's like, I will not have sex with you. And then it's like, fine. In the movie, he kind of like, he like throws her on the bed and like pins her arms down, and it almost seems like he's trying to like assault her and she's telling him to stop. It's a little bit off-putting. I'm not crazy about it. Okay, I was wrong. There's another fear after that. It's like an Inception thing. She keeps like waking up thinking that it's over, and then it's like, oh no, it's not actually over. Here's your family. You got to kill your family now. Anyways, after they all make initiation, Eric tells them they all have to line up and that they're going to put tracking devices inside of him, and it's just like a new thing that they're doing. He literally says, everyone gets tracking devices. Don't ask questions. It's just a precaution. Like, don't ask questions is a great way to not seem like you're doing something sketchy and trying stick all these people with serums that are going to brainwash them and make them kill people. Anyways, she wakes up the next day to find out that everybody is being mind controlled except for her because she's divergent and she's not affected by the simulations. She gets on the train with all of the mind controlled Dauntless and is trying to fit in so she doesn't stick out because they'll kill her if they see that she's not mind controlled and that she's divergent. But up ahead in the train, she sees the back of Four's head and she's like, I want to go see if Four is under the mind control or if he's actually been a divergent this whole time. And for like 2 minutes straight, she's like walking to the front of the train to get up to Four. And it's like, do you really think now's the best time to very obviously sneak through all these people on the train when you're trying not to get noticed? She finds Four and it turns out Four is also divergent. Big surprise. He's not under mind control either. So Four and Triss break their cover because Eric is about to kill Tobias and they have to get away. So they shoot him in the leg. They run away. Oh my God, this frame that I stopped on is insane. Anyways, the erudite end up catching Triss and Four is like put under some new serum that works against him. It's the whole end of this movie's a mess. I'm not gonna like get into the semantics of it all. Triss gets separated from Tobias, but her mom shows up and is a badass and helps her kill these soldiers and shit. You can tell that I'm like bored of talking about the movie at this point. I've been recording for far too long talking about a movie that I watched for far too long. Fast forward to one of the big scenes towards the end of the movie when Triss has to fight mind-controlled Will, her friend who is dating Christina. I don't know if I mentioned that they're dating in the book. It happened at some point. She's trying to get Will not to shoot at her. She's trying to wake him up from the simulation and he doesn't, and Triss ends up shooting him in the head and he dies. She kills his friend and he dies, and it's a huge sad moment. Well, in the book, she shoots him in the head. In the movie, you don't really see where she shot him. You don't see where anyone shoots anyone. It's very PG-13 guns. I will say this is another thing in the movie that I thought was better than in the book. Of course, Will is not as important of a character in the movie, so in that sense, it doesn't hit as hard. But the actual scene itself, it feels like they built up the emotions a little bit better in the movie. Although I don't really care that Will died because we barely see any of him in the movie. Triss and her mom try to go find her brother and her dad, and while fighting off more of the soldiers, her mom gets shot and she dies also. Womp womp. She finds her dad and brother and has to break the news that the mom died. In the book, her dad is just like, it was a good death, like, and he doesn't really seem that sad, but in the movie he seems a lot more upset. Okay, I guess that's good. I'm giving it points there. This is the last time I'm gonna mention it, but Ansel Elgort looks so bizarre in this movie. Like, look at his face in this scene. I just can't buy anything he does seriously. Now in the book, I can't wait to not have to say that phrase anymore. In the book, her dad also sacrifices himself and distracts some of the Dauntless guards in order for his daughter to get past them and get to where she needs to go. So he has a good sacrifice or whatever. I gotta point it out again. I'm sorry. I just said I wasn't gonna bring up Ansel Elgort's face again, but this scene where he's like running across the roof and he's got a gun, he just has the craziest, like, what is happening here? In the book, he lures the Dauntless guards away so that Triss can sneak past. But in the movie, they're all hiding around the corner and her dad is like you said, there isn't a minute to waste. And then he walks out into the open hallway and just starts shooting at the Dauntless guards with no protection or anywhere to hide. He could have done that from around the corner. And so of course they shoot the dude right in the freaking tummy and then he dies. This one was not a necessary death. They could have easily made it something that he had to do to sacrifice himself for his kids, but instead he just made a dumb decision and now his kids don't have a dad. I mean, I guess they didn't before because they chose to go to different factions, but I'm just saying, he could have saved himself. Anyways, we get to the point where they mind control Four, and Triss has to have this boss battle against the boy that she loves. The sound effects during this scene are crazy. It's like they just look up like punch sound effect and use the same one over and over again. She just keeps saying, it's me, it's me, it's me. And then he just keeps beating the shit out of her. And Triss does like this random ass like Rey Mysterio acrobat move that she never learned in the book or the movie, but somehow she's able to pull that one off. Anyways, she's about to kill Four, and then she turns the gun around and puts it up to her own head. And then is like, 4, it's me, it's me, it's me. She just keeps saying it's me, and then he breaks out of the spell and doesn't kill her. They don't explain how he broke out of the simulation. It was true love. There is no other reason why he just stops right before he's actually going to kill her. Triss does do the coolest thing that she has done the whole movie and in the book, where Janine's like trying to do something with the simulation. She's like touching the screen, and then Triss throws a knife and it like sticks her hand into the screen. It's cool. Bravo to the team. Triss doesn't want to kill Janine, and she's like, oh, maybe you're not quite as dauntless as you thought you were. And then she says, I'm not. I'm Divergent. Anyways, they stop the simulation. All of the Dauntless guards snap out of it. And then we end with our little team, which is Triss, Peter, her brother Caleb. And then you have Tobias/4 and his dad, who is Marcus, which I didn't really explain that much in the movie, his whole deal, but I simply just do not care. And you should have watched my video on the book anyway, silly. Why did you believe me when I said you didn't have to watch the book video in order to watch this video? I was lying. I was trying to get you to watch the video, you freaking dummy. Anyways, all 5 of them get on the train, and we have one last monologue from Triss, which she says, we're like the factionless now. We've left everything behind, but we found ourselves and each other. Tomorrow we may have to fight again, but for now, we'll ride the train to the end of the line. And then, we'll jump. And then we have a little drone shot into a horrible landscape shot. What is this? I get that it's a big marsh, but is that the best way to shoot it? Is that really the shot we're gonna get? And that's the movie. But I saw here in the credits that the little abnegation girl at the beginning, who I said was supposed to be Triss, was played by Clara Berger, which is obviously Neil Berger's probably his daughter, right? And then Jonathan Ziegler, the first guy who came up for the choosing ceremony, the reverse last name alphabetical order, he was played by Lucas Berger. Man, what a family. A bunch of freaking Nepo babies. Anyways, I had a fun time watching the movie and talking about it. I'm going to do the same thing for Insurgent after my Insurgent book video comes out, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, questions, corrections, talk to me in the comments below. I want to know how I can do a video like this better in the future, or if you guys like this format. Maybe if there's young adult movies / books you want me to talk about in the future, I can do that too. I can do anything, guys. If you enjoyed this video, you'd probably enjoy some of my other recent videos. I've been posting pretty frequently. I try to put out a video every single week, and so if you have been watching those, or if you're gonna watch them, thank you. Thank you for supporting me and what I do. If you want to see what else I'm up to outside of YouTube, my Instagram is @nickisnotgreen, and I also make music under the name Face Eater. I'm actually putting out a new song and music video very soon, so the links to all of that will be in the description down below. Thank you again for sticking until the end, and have a great day, have a great rest of your week, and stay safe. Goodbye. Bye, guys.